And we're live. Welcome to another episode of the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fan podcast, where we let our talking do the football. And here we are with another episode of Classic Cronulla Chronicles. This week we are looking, in the 2024 season, round 7. It's Cronulla Sharks versus the North Queensland Cowboys at PointsBet Stadium. And we'll go back in time to 2015, round 22, where the Cronulla Sharks were playing the Cowboys at the same venue that was then known as Remondis Stadium. With me on his starting debut on this lovely little side show that we've got here, Chris, man of the merchandise, Kelly. Great to have you, CK. What are your thoughts of 2015 broadly?
Hey, thanks for that, Williams. 2015, obviously a bit of a better year than a previous 2014. We had a bit of a scandal go on there in the 2014 era, if anyone recalls. There was a few players missing towards the back end of the season and maybe Sands a coach for a little bit. But 2015 was a lot brighter. We started to build a few pieces towards what we now know to be the premiership year in 2016. So a few more wins and a few happier times.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Cowboys were flying high though. We were on a bit of a winning run ourselves, so we'll go forward to the recent form. Sharks are sitting fifth with 11 wins and 8 losses, which was very different to 2014, where we were anchored to the bottom of the table pretty much the whole year. Prior to that, 2013, we obviously made week 2 of the finals despite all the outside Asada noise. In 2012, we made the finals for the first time in a while. So you're right, they were building to something, with 2014 being a very huge black mark against our club and historically. But things were looking up again. We had a decent run. We'd strung 4 wins in a row together. Bit of a road warrior team too, having won 3 of those in a row away from home. So 18-14 in New Zealand after being down early against them. Valentine Holmes carving up with 2 tries. Week before that at Belmore, the famous match where Sharks fans were not allowed in the Leagues Club wearing merch because the Bulldogs couldn't control their own supporters. But yeah, Michael Ennis standing up there with a solid 18-16 win there. 21-20 in Golden Point, Valentine Holmes field goal in Canberra on a freezing Saturday afternoon. And 28-8 against the Dragons, which was a bit of revenge after they'd pumped us by 40 at Cogra when they were the classic April premiers that they were. Prior to that, though, went to Brookvale, lost for the 4,000th time there, 16 points to 28. On the flip side, the Cowboys, there are some highlights steep down dark depths of YouTube that we will put in the show notes here for this one. In the comments field, you'll be able to click on it and see some highlights. They're commenting that the Cowboys have won 14 of their last 15. I think they'd won 11 or 12 in a row. And on that winning streak, just prior to these last run of 5 matches heading into it, the Sharks had beaten them in Townsville. The Cowboys, without their origin stars, including Thurston and Matt Scott and the like, were up 18-0 at halftime. Sharks... it wasn't quite a record anymore, but it was another big comeback, 18-0 down, some tries to Tagatese, Luke Lewis and the like, brought it back to a 24-18 win to the good guys. And here we were again, Cowboys v Sharks. Cowboys on another winning run. They'd beaten the Raiders. They'd pumped Parramatta 46-4. They beat that score there should have been 30 points to 12. There's a typo there by myself. Boldo is crying from here. 30 points to 13 accidentally, so 30 points to 12. At Manly, I believe, there was a bye. And they scratched home a win against the Dragons too. So probably another Origin-affected match, that one. So the Cowboys are flying high, sitting second. And if they won this match, they were going to go top. Do you remember anything particular about that era?
Yeah, obviously, spoiler alert, but the Cowboys took out the grand final in that year in 2015, the little fairy tale finish in Golden Point. And I was going to wait till the end, but we might bring it up, and I'm sure Williams will pass a bit on to me again to put into the socials for everyone to enjoy. But this was the creation of the video, the Boldo video, where the boys took the trip to North Queensland for the semi-finals, where Boldo was told not to believe anymore, told him his future self, do not believe. So the birth of the video. We obviously had a bit of a rivalry going. I think even now with the Cowboys, we've had a few semi-final matches up where back and forth, obviously the prelim in 2016, semi-final in 2015, and the famous 7 tackle try before that. So quite a few matchups in the semi-finals of Cowboys and Sharks about, and then obviously our 2022 home final that we don't really like to talk about either. So
or another one we don't like. talk about there. 2017, week one of the finals
Yeah,
too, when we finished fifth, they finished eighth. They snuck in and they made it all the way to the grand final on the back of Michael Morgan with Thurston out for the year. That was, we
correct.
watched that one in New York with David Bottle and he's living there. And yeah, I mean, we won the comp the year before, that eased it a bit, but gee, that was walking out onto the street at close to 5 a.m. Staying up all night to see it finish like that. Oh, horrible. But yeah, 20, you're right. Finals rivalries, 2013 win to the Sharks, 2015 win to the Cowboys. A few of us did go up and witness that 39-0 shellacking, which the afternoon was going great until Matt Scott took the ball from the kickoff and I think skittled about 5 defenders and made 40 metres. And then it was all downhill from there. Then 2016 prelim revenge, 2017 Cowboys got the win, and then 2022 it was a bit of a win-loss kind of trading, kind of like our record against the Raiders for a while, but they've got strung 2 finals matches in a row now with that win we won't speak of.
Maybe the Cowboys are our bogey team for semi-final. Maybe that's
you're right.
They got the
You're
wood,
right.
yeah.
You look definitely 2017 and 2022 we were strong favourites for both and did what Cronulla does at times.
Yep.
But yeah, so yes, spoiler, you're right. They were a red hot Cowboys team that got their revenge in week 2 of the finals. But we're looking at this match here. It was pretty big. Sharks did open the season going 0-4, losses to the Raiders at home, followed by the Broncos at home, followed by the Storm away, and then the Titans snatching defeat from the jaws of victory with a Wade Graham intercept pass to, I think that was James Roberts that took it and ran the length. So when it was a game that all we need to do was wrap it up. And post 2014, gosh, it was looking horrible. It was looking like same old, despite the fact that I suppose Asada had been sorted. The team was fairly full strength compared to the injuries announced we had the year before. But then Jack Bird on starting debut against the Roosters at the old Sydney Football Stadium snagged a win. I think it was 20 points to 12, and it became a fun season. Just everything turned around overnight, strung some wins together, and here we were again stringing some wins together and playing against one of the top high-flying teams. Rolling forward to the lineups, we'll have a bit of music just to appease the fans and make it feel like a big match. So here we go, rolling into it. The Cronulla Sharks side, number 1, Michael Gordon, the wings, Sasai Feki and Valentine Holmes, who would appear in the grand final the following year. The centres, Gerard Beale and Ricky Latelli. The halves, a young Jack Bird and an experienced Jeff Robson. The front row, Chris Heinington, Michael Lennon, Sam Tagatese. The back row, Anthony Tupou in his final year for club. Wade Graham and Paul Gallen, the captain. The bench, Andrew Fafita, surprisingly. That may be incorrect by my analysis there. I'll have a look at that because I think he's out this match. Matt Pryor, Tinarau Arona and Jason Pakuya, the coach Shane Flanagan. The Cowboys, there were a few changes too. Lachlan Coote, Matthew Wright, former Shark, and Antonio Winterstein, the back 3. Centres, Justin O'Neill, Kane Linnett. The halves, Michael Morgan, Jonathan Thurston. Front row, Ben Hannett, Jake Granville, James Tamo. Back row, Gavin Cooper, Ethan Lowe, Jason Taumalolo. And the bench, Jason Almalolo, based on my spelling there. Good thing we're a majority audio-only coverage, but for those watching at home, they can have a giggle. Rory Kos-Jason, John Asiata, Scott Bolton, Sam Hoare on the bench. The coach, Paul Green. We'll fade out the music there. Cut. And we'll have a look, because, I've made an error there on the Fafita front, and I might have to blame... no, not blaming anyone. Number 14 is Ben Barber, not Andrew Fafita. So that was a carryover from my previous match that I covered here. So Fafita was indeed out, and it was a good pickup by Kelly before we, kick off on the actual match itself. There were some key outs. I'll let you cover that.
Yeah, so obviously going back and looking at the matches, it's quite interesting. Ben Barber at number 14, but obviously Fafita and his twin brother are all out due to a off-field discretion where there was a alleged abuse in a junior rugby league match. So they had been suspended by the NRL. So they were in attendance at the game, but they obviously weren't playing for that match. So we might have felt like we were a bit short-handed going into such a strong pack that the Cowboys had. But looking back at those teams, it's quite different. You could see the building blocks there, bit of youth mixed in with experience. So, what a strong team.
That loss of the Fafita brothers was just after the Bulldogs game 2 weeks prior. So, where we'd beat the Warriors the week before. The week before that, it was around the Belmore game they played. I think the news may have broke the day of the match, and the NRL didn't have a chance to act. And then they both got stood down. Obviously,
and this is looking back as well. This is on the back of the Andrew Fafita, where he earlier in the season signed with the Dogs, made a comment, and then contract was torn up. So thanks to I think it was Raylene Boyle at the time, backflipped on Andrew's contract, and the rest is history. So I appreciate it.
Crazy times, because you're right. I think that was early 2014 when that backflip happened. He was going to be signing for 2015, and I remember that was the Asada year. There was everything going wrong, and Fafita's going too, and we've signed Michael Ennis and Michael Leisha, who was the next gun, was going. Is this another Corey Hughes move? All these things were happening. Who have we got in the halves? Really no one. And then Jack Bird came from nowhere. But yeah, Fafita could very well have not been involved. I think it was an interview with Fafita with, I believe, Dan and Kemp in Bloke in the Bar, on the Bloke in the Bar podcast, where they chatted about basically the ins and outs of that contract that he pulled out of because it was heavily back-ended, heavily third-party reliant. And he was going to be on a pittance the first few years. And I think he even came out and said, I'd rather play rugby union. You're right. Raylene Boyle stepped in and chopped up the contract and re-signed with the Sharks. And thank goodness, the rest is history. Gosh, that was, sliding doors moment right there. But so that's number 14, Ben Barber, who come off the bench. Didn't score in this match, but showing again the signs of what we had. You look, Matt Pryor, starting prop in majority of 2016, coming off the bench there, was in his second season for the club. First year he didn't set the world on fire, nor did anyone really in 2014, but he was starting to come into his own. Slamming Sam Take It Easy was a starting prop. Chris Heinington, who was majority bench middle later in his career, but starting prop there. Obviously, Jeff Robson as well as a steady hand. And Anthony Tupou, who famously scored a great try under the post against the Bunnies in the first week of the finals later this season before departing. I'm not sure if he retired or went to England, but this was definitely his final season for the club. Do you remember where he went? I don't know. Anthony Tupou?
I can't. No, I actually can't recall. I think it may have been England, but it's he disappeared into obscurity, didn't he, at the end of his career?
Yeah.
So
he was, just to touch on him for a second, a big money signing at the start of 2009.
Massive,
after the success of 2008. Had played plenty of rep footy at the Roosters. Pretty maligned. I think he never really hit the heights for us. I did like him though, and I thought he really played a role at the back end of this year. Just a tough second rower and I think he copped an inside ball from Ennis, really crafty play from dummy half in that match, and carried three guys over the line to score under the post. What was, I think, the third try in that match to give the Sharks a very big lead at half time. So looking at it, sorry, I did forget about this. He went to Wakefield Trinity in the UK in 2016 and came back and played four matches for Newcastle in the NRL in 2017 before retiring. So thanks, Anthony Tupou. Rolling forward to the game, a quick summary of it. A early 2-0 lead was granted through taking the 2 after, I believe it was a high shot. And then the Sharks eventually broke down the Cowboys' defence after getting a lot of ball on the Cowboys' line. Ricky Latelli scoring out wide on the left early. And Michael Gordon had his kicking boots on and sent us 8-0 up. The Cowboys copped, I think, a penalty and had the opportunity to take the 2 and didn't take it after Thurston had been taking it late. They went for the try, missed out, so maybe they should have taken the 2. Back down the other end, Greg Bird with a great individual run to put us 14-0 up at half time. And also, too, you look at Jeff Robson, who's getting his final year for the Sharks. He did go to play a few more seasons for the Warriors, but very contrasting styles. Bird, not a classic 5'8". We'll chat more about their halves pairing in a sec, but was a real breath of fresh air for the club and for the team, and for having a dynamic player in the halves that really unleashed the back line that previously may not have been the case when you had Holdsworth and Robson, or even New Brown was in now. The team, New Brown was good, but injuries affect him. So Sharks were up 14-0. The all-important third try came from I remember this try being about a 50-metre run. Looking at the replay, it was a 90-metre run. So Gordon took the kick, bit of grub up, beat the first 2 defenders, and then set off down the left. And there was some speedsters chasing him. There was Lachlan Coote and I think Winterstein chasing him. He made it all the way to the far southeast corner. Missed the goal, unfortunately, but that was right after half time and put the Sharks right in control. Cowboys brought it back to 18-10. They did take the 2 to bring it back to a 6-point ball game after a late hit on Thurston. They took the 2 there to bring it back to 18-12. And then Gerard Beale with his first try of the season after being signed by St George Illawarra, had started or played in effectively every match all season in the centres, and finally scored a try. And what's this, in round 22, the 20th match of the year after we'd had 2 byes. So it was a good one. It was, as Andrew Voss said in the commentary, it was a try assist to Thurston, because it was a bit of a dodgy crossfield kick that I remember watching it live, and he took it, and as soon as he saw it, international Beale was away, no one was catching him, and that put it back out to a 12-point ball game. The Cowboys struck back with a late try and a cracking sideline conversion for the right by Thurston to bring it back to 6-point difference. And we're like, the Cowboys are really hanging in there after the Sharks had dominated the first half. I was like, are we going to give this up? And then Wade Graham diving over from dummy half to seal it. I can't remember if it was dummy half or an inside ball, but it was a play in and around the ruck right on full time, 79th minute to give us the win. The notable try being the Michael Gordon one. Gordon was flashy. I mean, that's his nickname, but never the fastest player. Solid winger for Penrith and New South Wales. Solid fullback for the Sharks. But that try was so dynamic, and right after halftime, so important.
Yeah, he just sort of going back and watching the replay, and I'm sure everyone wants, when they get a chance, to go and jump on and watch the highlights. We put it on the video as well. He sort of just broke that first line of defence in that far corner, and he was gone. Probably if you backed him as a horse, you'd be a bit worried, because without 10 minutes ago, it looked like he was going to get cut down, and somehow just made that last-ditch effort in the corner to score a try. The international Gerard Beale try is unbelievable. Like, for everyone to go and watch a highlight, and to get off your nude run for your club, the Sharks, to get a crossfield kick from Thurston, catch it 5 meters out, and literally just streak away down the other end was unbelievable. You see the boys get around him. You're right, Wade Graham was out a dummy half. He was also on the nude run. That was his nude run try as well. So interesting enough, it took Wade till round 22. He obviously didn't try and score backwards like he does, and went straight over. The best part as well is Andrew Voss's commentary, where he says he can sing the song now. So yeah, I think he's heard us yell that a few times. So
you're right. He does say those exact words, and also talks about both of them, especially Wade Graham getting off the nudie run, which surprising, because only a few years later, down in Canberra, I think it was early 2017, he got a second half hat trick. Majority of those tries running backwards, just breaking down the left and carving up, and also too in the World Cup. Admittedly, was against France, also in Canberra, but scores 4 tries. So pretty noted try scorer as a former half and then back rower, and to go all season without scoring is surprising. I'll have a look shortly as to how many games he did play, but yeah, you're right. Gerard Beale streaking away, such a great sight. It was so important too. I think there was a bit of media talk around, and I think even chat amongst the fans in the forums and the like, going, who's this guy? He hasn't scored. He provided plenty. He was literally was left centre, so he was right centre, and he was providing to Valentine Holmes on his outside. So he did have quite a few assists, but no finishes. But if you're going to break your duck, that's the way to do it. And it did remind me, seeing it again, it reminded me again of, just before I lose battery, I'll just replug in. But it did remind me a lot of 2017. Oh, we lost me. No, we're back. 2017. 2017 against the Bulldogs, I believe it was, where he broke the deadlock there with a similar, well, it was not from a kick, it was just a break, but breaking away and running 90 metres to score. So he wasn't the biggest speedster getting around. We did lose a lot when Ben Barber departed at the end of 2016, and Gerard Beale was our initial fullback in 2017, but he did score some good long-range tries, and this was one of them. The crowd, I just had a look at the figure, was just under 14,000 in the old Shark Park configuration, where you could fit about 20,000 in. I do recall, and maybe it's just personal circumstances, given I just moved back to New South Wales after living in regional Victoria for a fair while. Just great vibe. Everyone was excited, up and about. And when Gerard Beale scored to maybe seal it 20 to go, it's never safe at Shark Park, but to get us back, or both the Gordon try and the Beale try to put us back in a semblance of control. The crowd was so noisy, and ended up being a big night after this one, because we'd just beaten competition high flyers. We just won 5 in a row. Things were looking good. We would have played at Melbourne Storm the following week, and that was a bit ominous, and it didn't end well. But we'll slide forward to a few talking points. Bird and Robson.
Did you start to believe though, Williams, after that?
We did.
That victory?
We did, absolutely.
Started to
Thank you
believe.
for that question. We started to
Yeah.
believe. I'm wearing my 2014 polo shirt now because they were going very cheap at the end of 2014. There was so much merch, probably the best merch purchasing period ever.
Yep.
No one wanted to be honest, but everyone was jumping back on the bandwagon. I do remember hearing Vossi shouting. I can't remember what it was. Whether it was another match or the Sunday ticket or what, saying that he was really liking the Sharks during that period because we'd played the Warriors the week before. Valentine Holmes scored a flashy try in that one with a chip and chase. A few of the other tries we scored in this game against the Cowboys, he's like, the Sharks were always a gritty team. I didn't picture them as being a team that was capable of scoring points. The tries that they were scoring at that point in time, he's like, wow, they could do anything. So we'll talk about the rest of the year shortly, but yeah, were you starting to believe? I knew you were at the wrestling that night, but
Yeah, unfortunately, fortunately as well, Zach and Boldo and I are at the wrestling. It's a WWE live event, so I was sort of checking the scores on my phone as I was sort of sitting there watching a few moves getting done in the ring. So I was excited. It's like you said, there's a young Jack Bird in the team, sort of running roughshed on the league at that stage. And a lot of people were talking him up because he was just, even in this game, he did that one out wide and just stepped straight through the line and scored, which he did plenty of times that season and the following season. It's interesting just having a quick look at the slides if people get a chance. The nil sponsors and the Cronulla Sharks Football Club across the front of the jersey. So it was quite an interesting time. We're trying to get excited, and the rest of the league still kind of hated us at the stage because we'd come out of the Asada saga. So it was a weird feeling. It was a strange season.
you're right. It was right in smack bang in the era where I'd say we were hated. And the Sharks throughout the 90s weren't, well, outside of those, I suppose, that held Super League against us, which I suppose rightly so for those that were lost their clubs through it and all the rest. It was not a nice period, but this was probably the toughest period to be a Sharks fan, especially 2013 and 14 when that was all flaring up. There was the pure hatred you got everywhere you went. Gosh, I couldn't even imagine what the players were going through. There's some really good interviews with, I believe, Wade Graham and Andrew Fafita about that time. Paul Gallen talks about it in his book. It was just all encompassing, and I think they were even surprised. I think they won 5 matches all 2014. It was a miracle that even occurred. They could well have lost every match.
Yep.
There was the media, I suppose, attention about relocate the club, fold the club, they're a basket case, all the rest, and there was some elements of merit and accuracy to that, but it doesn't make it any easier as a fan. So I suppose I've slid all the way to the right, talking about the 2015 vibes. We'll open with that one. I'll go a bit out of order, but 2014 vibes were horrid. It was all about changing the narrative, I suppose. 2015, the first four games, the first month of the season, it was just more of the same, and then a bit of Jack Bird brilliance, 2 tries, a commanding display. Valentine Holmes jagging a try 2 in that match, and then all of a sudden everything changed. And despite that, so you lose the first 4 matches of the season. I think it was the first time first time any team had made the finals after going 0-4, or maybe only second time. And it was it was very close. If we didn't capitulate in those yellow jerseys in the final round, it'll be the first time a team made the top 4 after going 0-4. So it was a special team. Flick back to the left and far left and look at the Bird and Robson combination. Robson was definitely at the end of his career with the Sharks. I know there was a lot of talk, maybe myself included, saying he's solid, but we're not going to win a comp with him. But gee, we almost made the top 4. We should have made the top 4.
Yeah, it's such an odd couple. Like you got the young kid, 19, straight on the scene, no one had heard of, and just burst out of the gates. And then you got the old head sort of controlling the team around the park. But like you said, like he wasn't an elite halfback in the sense, but he did his job every week. Like probably one of my favourite unheralded players out in that era because he just did his job. Like he put his head where people didn't want to. He had a great kicking game. He could occasionally just go, you know what, I'm gonna score myself and do it himself. He had elusive speed, like very like he wasn't fast, but people just sort of just went, oh, he's not going to go anywhere. And next thing he's through the line and scored himself. So yeah, I didn't have trust that he was going to take us to the promised land, but stranger things have happened, haven't they?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at kind of this a litany. Who was it? Who was that guy that Shane Perry? I think he was for the Broncos in 2006. So if you have an out and out 5'8" next to him, you can do anything. And you're right, Robson. He gave 100. I'm using a cliche here, 110% every week. That's what he had. And you're right, it was elusive speed when he broke the line. I was like, oh, is he going to get there? I distinctly remember 2 cracking games for him. One of them was both against the Warriors at Shark Park. I think one was in 2012 we'll cover on another occasion. But majority of our team, I think, was struck down late with a virus. We lost Fafita and Wade Graham and others, and it was not looking good. I think we're down by an odd score, like 11 points or 9 points with only about 10 minutes to go. It was in the wet, as it always is at Shark Park. And I think Jeff Robson, Carney stood up, but Robson actually grabbed the game, the scruff of the net, kicked a 40-20, scored a try. I think he scored 2 tries. I think one of Carney set him up for one, and the other one he just showed and goed and buried his way next to the post, and we got out of jail in that one. And then the following year, early 2013, when all the Asada stuff was kicking off and a lot of bad publicity, and I distinctly remember he carried quite a few defenders over the line. Small guy, just burrowed through, kept wriggling, got there. And I remember it was not far from where we sit. It was kind of the southwest corner of the ground, and it was like, wow, how do you get through and score that? It was just sheer guts and determination. So thank you, Jeff Robson, for your time. I'll move on to Michael Gordon. This really showed his skills. He was only at our club for 2013 through to, was it the end of this year, 2015, before he moved on to Parramatta and the Roosters. So a real journeyman in the end, and the Titans, so a real journeyman in the end, but did a job for us and won plenty of players.
Yeah, look, he was the guy at Penrith, and obviously you mentioned it before. His nickname was Flash Gordon. He was just electric when he was at Penrith. Like they sort of retired Reece Wesser, and then they brought in Michael Gordon. Like, who the hell is this guy? Like, he's even faster. And then sort of, I'm really a big fan of Michael Gordon, still am. It was kind of one of those players that we reached out and got for a little bit extra to try and lure him away from their club. You had the connection that with Wade Graham coming to Cronulla as well, but the poor guy, like most of the rest of his team, went through the mud when he wasn't involved in the rest of the scandal. So, he was probably one of the leaders out there. I wish we saw the Penrith form, but, like you watched that try, he still had that speed. He still did the things. Like you said, his kicking boots were on that night. So I really loved the guy. He was a great player.
Yeah, you're right about the kicking. Great goal kicker. And we had that conundrum the year before where Todd Carney was a pretty good goal kicker too, or 2 years before that. So they shared the kicking. Gordon was back number one kicker there and did really well. I think it was early 2013 where he's on a kicking streak or a run. Looked like he was going to get close to Haslam's. He was in the mid-20s. I think Haslam had the record at the time, and we all put the mock on him at Shark Park. Hit the post from next to the post, I think, and that ended that. But really solid with the boot as well. Had a very straight kicking style. If you look at Cavell, I was talking Lats a little while ago about how he had that fade and he's kicked the skin off it. Gordon was a bit more deliberate, straight shooter, but very, very dependable. Gerard Beale, moving on to the international great that he is, a real cult favourite. He cops a lot of stick. And also, too, you can look at, I suppose, if we touch on a couple of lowlights initially, like the 2016 semi-final or quarter-final against Canberra, he gave up a one-on-one steal, and Raiders had one more crack at us in the grand final too. A couple of little plays there. If he had his time over, he'd be different. But I always liked him. He always did a job for us. Some of the... For example, in 2016, I think it was against the Broncos, he had 4 guys on him and threw an offload to Fecky to score. Stuff like that. He was underrated in my opinion. And I suppose he started with the Broncos and played a solid few years for them, starting as a fullback. So I know you're a big fan. I'm preaching to the converted here, but what are your favourite Beale memories?
Oh, look, obviously we dubbed him International Beale because he was an international player for New Zealand. A lot of promise as a young kid coming, like you said, coming out of Brisbane and on to St George and then coming to us. A bit of Pomeroy sort of dust across him at times where it was rocks and diamonds. You didn't know what you're going to get with Beale. But look, like we always tell everyone else, there's quite a few legends in our club have gone through and don't have a premiership, and International Beale has that premiership ring. If he doesn't play in that grand final, we're probably in big trouble because I know we mentioned it on our show previously about Jack Bird hurting his elbow. So if Beale's not in that team, we're probably in big trouble, and I don't reckon we go on to do it. So I'd give him massive props.
Even more. So Beale Bird played through the elbow injury, but Fecky, his ankle almost got torn off by the Storm. And you're right, if we had a 4-man bench, gosh, you've lost your winger. Who you're putting out there? You're reshuffling. Just off the top of my head, thinking maybe you
You
push.
probably Wade probably pushes out to a centre-ish.
Yeah,
Sort of,
Wade's at centre, and you've got either Latelli or Bird.
or a Luke
Was he
Lewis
left
even.
foot?
You could probably Luke
Yeah,
Lewis
if
out
we,
there, but that's that storm pack that's that tough. You probably don't want to
yeah,
sacrifice that. So,
you
yeah, it's
probably got Latelli on the wing, and you're right, Lewis or Wade in the centres. So having Beale there saved us. Also, too, I suppose it was a couple of actions that he did there, a couple of misreads that people are critical of, and go, oh, Jared Beale could have cost the grand final. But you're right, if he wasn't there, the grand final could have been taken away from us before we even hit the 65-minute mark. Storm had scored 2 tries. They score a third. What's that? 18-8, game over. So
he was part. He was
yeah,
part of the last scramble. So I'll give him that. I'll give him the
that's
props.
it. And I mean, I will take another line from one of our dear friends, or maybe the host of this podcast, that maybe first said this, but Gerard Beale 1, Andrew Eddingshausen 0. That's a facts
Yep.
don't have feelings. That's there you go. But on to Thurston. I don't like too much covering other players or other teams' players here, but I will touch on this because it's relevant for the 2015 grand final as well, or our thoughts on this. He had an unhappy night. He absolutely carved up later in the year in some big matches, including the second week of the finals against us. But he definitely, I'd borderline say he went missing. I think Vossi did kind of allude that to that in the coverage. Had a lot of errors, a few poor kicks, including one that was a try assist to Gerard Beale, and just it was a bit rocks and diamonds. And when you think, oh, Dalian Player of the Year, Clive Churchill medal winner, which he eventually was, surely Michael Morgan should have been the Clive Churchill medal winner in that match. He kept him in it. Morgan, I think, was almost flawless, while Thurston was a bit up and down and a bit erratic. So, again, this was a demonstration. I think it was a bit of a false hope or false dawn for the Sharks, especially going into that finals match, in that the Cowboys were off their game. They had a very low completion rate in the first half, improved in the second, and got 3 quick tries. So it showed what they can do. We were basically playing, I think, at our capacity, where the Cowboys were having an off night. So you got any thoughts on Thurston, I suppose? It was back end of his career.
Oh, look, 2015 Thurston, I just remember the start of that season, and this was a different beast. Like, it was the peak of his powers. This Cowboys team was running hot. He obviously didn't have Matty Bowen at this stage, and it was a new combination with Lachlan Coote out there. I agree with the 2015 grand final. Selfishly, I had money on Matt Scott, so I still don't think Thurston did anything until that last goal, and then which he actually missed, and then the field goal.
Yeah.
So Michael Morgan was on fire, so we had a great partnership in that. Like I said, I think Lachlan Coote was a massive linchpin for that team. They had a great pack, but yeah, he was literally 2015 peak of his powers.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I'm probably being a bit too critical here, but I suppose we did get the win. In hindsight, myself and a lot of people that I was having beers with the Leagues Club, good old Leagues Club, when you go there after the match, I remember it was a very big night. We were playing the Storm the following week, and we're thinking, wow, what can this team do, when really the Cowboys were off, we were on, and we still only won by 12.
He might have fallen into the classic Gus Gould Bermuda Triangle. I don't remember too many Thurston highlights at Shark Park over the years. So
you're right. He had
I'm sure we'll go over some, but yeah,
2012 and 2013, they both back end of the year, both seasons we played them late. I think it was on Father's Day for at least one of them, and that they pumped us like 36-18 or whatever. I do recall where you won late 2013, they did that, and luckily a few weeks later, in first week of the finals, we turned things around, and obviously had a 7-tackle try to Bo Ryan, but and Kane Leonard went out right at the end, but. Yeah, I think Thurston had a few good games there against us, but also too, you're right, he had plenty of unhappy nights too, which maybe it was the Bermuda Triangle, maybe it was our rugged forward pack that bullied him a bit. So moving on, we chatted about 2015 vibes before, such polar opposite to 2014, and it was where we regained the ascendancy, redefined the narrative, got some good news stories back into the piece, and had those players like Jack Bird, Valentine Holmes coming through, playing attractive football. And all of a sudden, we were doing things. We had the tough forward pack, and as you said, the youth and experience. We had the young guys coming through that could score the flashy tries. So it was good times. I'll move forward to the final. That was a scorecard. So 30 points to 18 tries to Beale, Bird, Gordon, Wade Graham, Ricky Latelli, Michael Gordon 5 from 6, and the Cowboys Kane Leonard, Antonio Winterstein, and Matt Wright, the former Shark, scored with Thurston kicking 3 from 4. How the season finished off, the Cowboys dropped a few more matches that year, with finishing with 17 wins, 7 losses. I believe this was only their 3rd loss of the year, so they finished the season not in the best of form, and lost first week of the finals, but then they saw us coming winning 39-0 in the second week of the finals and sending us packing in a very solid way. Whereas we had a match to, hey, beat Manly, go fourth, and where to from there? Probably playing, I think it was Melbourne first, or yeah, was it? How'd that season finish? Well, it would have been a very difficult matchup first week of the finals, possibly the Roosters.
Yeah.
And we bottled it. We were wearing those bright yellow jerseys and ruined it. Also, too, after winning 5 matches in a row, we were like, here we go. We're playing Melbourne, solid contenders. We're contenders on a Monday night the following week at Shark Park. What could possibly go wrong? I think we took the 2 early, and then we didn't score another point, and it finished 30 points to 2 in favour of Melbourne. So that was in that period where I don't think we had beaten them since the previous Olympic year, which was 2012, and prior to that it was 2008. It was like, hey, is it a leap year? Will the Sharks beat the Storm? Yes or no? And it was a leap year. We didn't beat the Storm that year.
Damn. I think I'll let Boldo do that Storm game, because if they took the 2 to start the game, I want to see his reaction about taking the 2 and what came out of that. So
yeah, or similar to
I'm sure at another stage we'll do another classic match where when Boldo was away in New York and we're playing the Storm. I'm sure we'll revisit that at another stage.
Where
a comment was made from many kilometres away overseas.
And
so
it may have involved both of us reading at the same time. But just thinking now, just off the top of my head, so that one we took the 2, lost 30 points to 2. We tried to take the 2 last year against the Storm. What did that finish? 50 points to something. So yeah, it's. I mean. You're right, Bold. The business philosophy and statistically speaking, yes, you get the 2 more often than you don't get more often than you get the try. But yeah, I don't know. Games are a complex beast. You take the 2 and then you drop the kickoff and they score off that. That's a 4-point turnaround. So yeah. Anyway, 2015 was a fun year. We know what happened the following year. This was one of the highlight wins of the season. I'll just rattle through a couple of other results that year where we may be able to unpack later on. So we obviously lost to Melbourne. We did beat the Tigers. We put a big score on there, 40 points to 18. We beat Parramatta 35-28 at the old Parramatta Stadium, which was a real high-scoring affair. It involved a late Michael Ennis try to seal it. We lost to Manly in that aforementioned horror show in the yellow jerseys, 14-12, in front of a huge crowd at Shark Park, 19,500, where we're all had so much hope, and I think that was.
I remember that game. That went down like an absolute lead balloon at the ground. I think it was very similar of the 2001 or 2 when we played the Roosters and we thought we were going to make the top 4 and went to pre-celebrate it.
You're right.
2002. It felt very much like that, like a sunny Shark Park, big crowd playing Manly who were down and out, and we're just going to trounce these guys and make the top 4, and it was just flat. Like it was
all the
like,
expectation. And the team weren't playing well, and every drop ball you could just hear the sigh and the groan of the crowd. So anyway, I mean, pressure is privilege. So we were in a position where we would have given anything to be in that position that time. The previous 100%. Year, when we were playing off in a wooden spoon, final against the Raiders, and gave up a lead there and lost and got our first wooden spoon since 1969. So a lot had changed, but still, when you're on that quest for your first premiership, it all counts, and that hurt a lot.
If we only knew what the future held anyway, so
exactly. And we'll show the video another day where Baldo says "Never Believe" was filmed in Townsville the morning after.
We'll make sure that gets up on the socials. We'll definitely make sure on the back of this. We'll make sure that gets on the socials so everyone knows it's out there and it's recorded.
It's the joy of being a Sharks fan. 28-12 win the following week at the City Football Stadium against the reigning premiers Souths was a genuine highlight of the decade. I think it was the first time, and I think still the only time, that the previous year's Wooden Spooners knocked out the previous year's premiers in a final. Souths were busted. We also too lost Fafita first. I think in the run out, he had back spasms and could we use an 18th man? I don't think we could. All those things. So anyway, big lead was built there, and then 39-0 happened. But thank goodness for 2016, as always. We'll fade out with a bit of up Cronulla instrumental, but thank you again, Chris. I hope you enjoyed this, your first crack at this, and I
loved it. This is great. Walk down memory lane, so I'm sure everyone will enjoy it as well.
Yeah, so we got round 8 coming up, so I'll just give you a little preview of that one. So it is against the Raiders, so I believe we're going to be covering the 2009 match involving the Pink Balls It was a bit of a dud year, but we had a very, very good showing down in Canberra. It may involve some Corey Hughes magic. I never thought I'd say that. But anyway, we'll be looking that ahead of the next week's match in the 2024 NRL season. As always, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Give us your feedback. Let us know how good was Gerard Beale. Where would you place him in your own tiers if you happen to have them? And also too, how would you rank Michael Gordon amongst the stellar list of fullbacks we've had? Obviously, we've got Peachy and Barber in the top echelon, but there's a whole stack of other guys too that fall in the mix. And I think Michael Gordon's rather underrated there. We'll fade out with a bit of our favourite song. And thanks again, Kelly. Up, up.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Up, up.